All right, so get ready to dive into the world of Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
We got this fascinating interview with him. He talks about, well, kind of a crazy journey.
Right.
From like a wild childhood to YouTube fame and everything in between.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to unpack how he went from putting pennies on train tracks as a kid to building this massive online empire.
What's so interesting is how those early, almost feral experiences really shaped his outlook and kind of gave him that resilience that served him throughout his career.
Yeah, he even talks about selling weed before puberty. Talk about an early hustle. But you can see how that kind of environment forced him to think on his feet, you know?
Right, exactly.
Develop some street smarts.
Yeah, even in those situations, he was learning to assess risks, build networks, negotiate, skills that would be crucial later on.
It makes you wonder, right?
Totally.
How those early challenges, even the difficult ones, can actually lay the foundation for our strengths.
I think so.
What were your early hustles, listener? Maybe the seeds of what you're doing now were planted way back then.
Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about New York City.
Okay.
It was an obsession for Neistat from a young age.
Really?
Fueled by movies like Big?
Yeah, he had this image of New York as the promised land, the place where dreams come true.
Absolutely.
And get this, he became a father at 16.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You'd think that would derail anyone's ambitions.
Right.
But Neistat saw it as a turning point, actually.
Interesting.
It gave him a sense of responsibility and fueled his drive to create a better life for himself and his son.
So at 19, he packs up, moves to New York with his 2-year-old son.
Wow.
No real plan.
Wow.
He was just determined to make it work.
Yeah.
Refusing to fall back on restaurant jobs, which is all he had known up to that point.
He talks about this privilege of mindset, this belief that despite his circumstances, being born in the U.S., gave him opportunities that many people throughout history never had.
Right.
It makes you think about how our starting point, our context, shapes our worldview.
Absolutely. He had this like ditch digger mentality, this absolute conviction that he would find a way no matter what.
Totally.
And this is where his love affair with video begins.
Oh, yeah.
He was drawn to it as a way to express himself.
Yeah.
To finally have a voice after years of feeling unheard.
Right.
Video became his outlet, you know?
It was his canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started experimenting with editing alongside his brother, maxing out credit cards to buy equipment.
Wow.
They were completely self-taught, driven by pure passion and this desire to learn.
That lack of formal training turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
It forced them to be resourceful, break the rules,
Yeah.
and that ultimately became their trademark style.
It's like that saying, sometimes your biggest limitations can lead to your most unique breakthroughs.
It's true.
So they're making these videos, but it wasn't an overnight success story, was it?
Not at all. Neistat emphasizes the importance of patience.
Okay.
He talks about years of sucking, getting 0 views, facing constant discouragement.
He even brings up Mr. Beast, the YouTube giant,
Right.
and how even he had to go through those early days of making videos that got mocked, using his mom's computer and grinding away for years before finding his audience.
It's true.
It's a good reminder that those overnight success stories are often years in the making.
It's true, yeah, and this is where Neistat makes a crucial distinction.
Okay.
He talks about the difference between persistence and patience. It's not just about blindly pushing forward. It's about strategically honing your craft, learning from your mistakes, waiting for the right moment.
He even cautions against trying to copy someone else's success.
Right.
Even someone like Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
It's about finding your truth, your own unique voice.
Exactly.
Even if it takes years to develop.
He uses this interesting analogy about blockbuster movies versus, those smaller Oscar-winning films.
Right.
He argues that the movies that truly resonate, the ones that stick with you, often come from a place of authenticity.
Yeah.
Not just a chase for views or box office numbers.
He mentions Spike Jonze's music videos.
Yeah.
The documentary Anvil, the story of Anvil, Werner Herzog's work as examples.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily massive commercial hits.
Right.
But they had a depth, a staying power that came from that raw authenticity.
It's about creating something that's true to yourself.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't appeal to the masses.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
And speaking of finding his voice, let's talk about the daily vlogs that catapulted Neistat to fame.
Yeah, years of honing his craft and perfecting his style finally aligned with the rise of YouTube, It was a perfect storm.
Right.
Consistency, quality content.
Yeah.
A platform hungry for it.
And boom, the daily vlogs explode and he becomes this YouTube superstar. But fame, as we know, has a dark side.
Yeah. Yeah, that sudden surge of recognition, it can be overwhelming.
Right.
Neistat even describes the experience of being constantly swarmed by fans.
Really?
Like to the point where he even had to move to a more secure building in New York City.
Wow. Imagine not being able to step outside without being recognized.
Right.
That constant scrutiny, that loss of privacy.
Yeah.
It's a side of fame we don't often hear about.
Right.
And for someone who built his career on sharing his life so openly, it had to be a real struggle.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the allure of fame.
Yeah.
But Neistat's experience really highlights the importance of boundaries.
Right.
Protecting your personal space and your mental well-being.
Yeah.
Even as you're building a public persona.
He also talks about the internal struggle, how fame messed with his sense of self, made him question his motivations.
He achieved the financial success he'd always dreamed of.
Yeah.
Checked off those bucket list items. But still felt empty.
It's like that classic tale, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
Achieving those external markers of success doesn't necessarily guarantee fulfillment.
It raises a really interesting question for all of us.
Right.
What does lead to true fulfillment?
Yeah.
Is it external validation, or is it something deeper, something we cultivate within ourselves?
He even admits that the constant pressure to create content put a strain on his marriage.
It's like he was always on,
right?
Even in those private moments.
This is a really important point, especially in today's hyper-connected world.
Yeah.
How do we create healthy boundaries between our public and private lives?
Right.
How do we protect our relationships, our own mental health, when we're constantly creating and sharing content?
It's a delicate balance.
For sure.
It's refreshing to hear someone like Neistat, who has achieved such massive success.
Being honest about those struggles.
It makes him relatable.
Right.
Human. Now, remember that book that inspired him at MIT? Hatching Twitter?
Oh, yeah. He dives headfirst into starting a software company.
Yeah.
And get this, he has zero coding experience.
It's that how hard can it be mentality again.
Right.
But this time the stakes are higher.
Yeah, okay.
He's facing down $200,000 in debt.
Wow.
And launches his daily vlog as a way to keep his head above water.
Talk about pressure.
Right?
But then against all odds, the company takes off.
They sell for $36 million.
Wow.
A massive win. You'd think he'd be ecstatic.
Right.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
Neistat actually felt disillusioned by the sale.
Really?
He felt like he let his employees down, like he compromised their shared vision.
It's a reminder that success isn't always linear.
Right.
It doesn't always feel the way we expect it to.
Yeah.
There can be a real complexity to navigating those wins.
Especially when other people are involved.
Then there's the CNN chapter.
Right.
They bring him in for his reach, his influence, but he ends up clashing with that corporate culture.
And to his credit,
yeah,
he takes responsibility for the project's failure.
Wow.
Even though he acknowledges that CNN had its own shortcomings.
It's a reminder that even the most successful people make mistakes.
Yeah.
Owning up to them is part of the growth process.
Totally.
Now, fast forward to the present day.
Yeah.
We see a different Casey Neistat. He describes a life of contentment, spending time with family, puttering around his studio.
He even acknowledges the indulgence of his current lifestyle.
Yeah.
The freedom, the flexibility that his past successes have afforded him.
But there's also a sense of restlessness, a yearning for that creative spark again.
Like he's reached the summit of one mountain.
Right.
And he's looking for that next challenge.
He talks about having a backlog of unwritten YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Ideas he's passionate about.
Right.
But hasn't quite found the motivation to tackle yet.
I love that analogy he uses, comparing himself to Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, yeah.
How Tarantino disappears for years, then reemerges with this incredible film.
Right.
Then retreats back into his creative cave.
He's craving that same level of focused creation.
Right.
That ability to shut out the noise and just pour himself into something meaningful.
He even deleted the YouTube Studio app from his phone.
Really?
So he's not constantly checking views and comments.
It's about reclaiming that sense of creative freedom.
Totally.
Doing the work for the pure joy of it, not for external validation.
And this brings us to one of Neistat's most powerful messages. Nobody cares about you.
Wow, now on the surface that might sound harsh,
Right.
even discouraging.
But the way he explains it,
Yeah.
it's actually incredibly liberating.
It's about letting go of that fear of judgment,
Right.
the constant worry about what other people will think.
Because, let's face it,
Yeah.
most people are too wrapped up in their own lives to be scrutinizing your every move.
It frees you up to create from a more authentic place. Absolutely. To take risks, to experiment without that pressure to please everyone.
Right.
And it makes you think, if you truly believed that no one was watching,
Yeah.
how would your work be different? Would you be bolder, more experimental?
What would you create if you were free from that fear of judgment, listener?
Yeah.
What's holding you back?
Right.
Maybe this is the permission you need to unleash your full creative potential.
It's interesting how Neistat ties this idea of creative freedom to like the changing landscape of online content. He talks about this trend of like Mr. Beastification on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, this chase for views and sensationalism.
Yeah.
It can feel like a race to the bottom.
Right.
Where quality and authenticity get sacrificed.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of going viral.
It wasn't exactly thrilled about that.
Yeah. But on the flip side, he's really excited about the rise of micro-creators.
Oh, really?
These creators who are focusing on specific passions, often in really niche areas. Like his friend who's obsessed with fish tanks.
Really?
Turns out there's a huge community of aquarium enthusiasts out there.
I had no idea.
And he's built this massive following just by sharing his knowledge.
It's a good reminder that you don't need millions of followers to be successful.
Totally.
Sometimes finding your niche, that specific area where you can truly shine,
Right.
can be more rewarding.
Absolutely. There's also Retro Dodo.
Retro Dodo.
Yeah, a channel dedicated to retro video games.
Oh, cool.
They've even published books.
Wow.
It's a great example of how passion can lead to unexpected opportunities.
It feels like a return to the early days of YouTube.
Yeah.
Where it was more about passion projects and connecting with like-minded people.
Yeah, it wasn't just about chasing fame and fortune.
Neistat seems optimistic about this shift.
Yeah, he sees it as a
Yeah.
positive evolution in the online content world.
But what about Neistat's own creative journey? Where does he go from here?
Well, he admits to feeling creatively restless.
Okay.
Like he's coasting a bit. He's got this backlog of unwritten YouTube videos,
Right.
ideas he's passionate about,
Yeah.
but hasn't found the motivation to tackle them yet.
He even talks about deleting the YouTube Studio app from his phone.
Yeah, not checking those views and comments.
Yeah.
Removing himself from that constant feedback loop.
Reclaiming that creative space.
Right.
That freedom to experiment without the pressure of external validation.
Yeah.
Doing the work for the pure joy of it.
Exactly. Kind of like that Tarantino model he mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Disappearing for a while.
Right.
Then re-emerging with something truly special.
And this brings us back to that central message. Create for yourself.
Absolutely.
Find what truly excites you, what makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And pursue it with passion and dedication.
Don't worry about whether it's going to be popular.
Yeah.
Or if it's going to make you money.
Right.
Just do the work, hone your craft, and trust that the right opportunities will come along.
Because as Neistat's story shows, when you combine patience, preparation, and a bit of luck, something magical can happen.
Absolutely.
It might take years of, sucking, of facing rejection and self-doubt.
Yeah.
But if you stay true to your vision, keep pushing forward, you might just achieve things you never thought possible.
So there you have it.
Right.
Our deep dive into the world of Casey Neistat.
We covered a lot of ground, from his chaotic childhood to YouTube stardom, entrepreneurial adventures, and his evolving views on creativity and success.
Absolutely.
What stood out to you, listener?
I think it's a story full of twists and turns,
Yeah.
successes and failures, but through it all,
Yeah.
there's this constant thread of resilience, of reinvention,
Right.
always seeking that next creative challenge.
And I think that's something we can all learn from.
For sure.
Absolutely. And remember, nobody cares about you. So go out there and make something amazing.
Right.
The world needs your unique voice, your unique perspective, and that's a wrap on this deep dive.
Awesome.
We'll be back next week with a fresh stack of sources and another fascinating story to unpack.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep creating under